Today, the city of St. Paul will officially join the lawsuit filed by the city of San Francisco, challenging the Trump administration's attempt to illegally use federal funds as leverage to force our local law enforcement to act as federal agents. We are taking action to ensure the continuity of local services that receive federal funding, but more importantly, to preserve and protect the basic covenant that our residents and businesses who contribute millions in hard-earned tax dollars to our federal tax base have a right to benefit from that federal funding that they provide. In St. Paul, we are currently relying on approximately $260 million in receivable federal funding. Those dollars have been instrumental in supporting 28,000 paid internship hours for young people in our community, in replacing 26,000 lead service lines at homes across our city, and providing $7.3 million in construction costs for projects at Como Zoo and our new North End Community Center, for building on our community-first public safety efforts, helping us drastically improve our approach to crime reduction and neighborhood engagement. We do not accept the proposal of this executive order unlawfully holding hostage federal funds as ransom against an unlawful political demand. I also want to share that we challenge the basis of this executive order as it's stated of being a public safety benefit. We know that there is no one who works harder or who has demonstrated more success at preventing crimes and holding people accountable than our St. Paul police officers and broader public safety team. We are very proud of the work that we have done. We're very proud of the 90% case clearance rate that we experience for homicides in our community every year. We're very proud of the work that our officers have done to almost triple our case clearance rates for non-fatal shootings in the last year. We're very proud of the national press that we've gotten, for example, for going opposite national trends around auto thefts and many of the other things that we're doing in regard to public safety. None of those jobs depend or change based on the citizenship status of the community members involved. When it comes time to plow a street, when it comes time to fill a pothole, when it comes time to carry someone to the hospital or put out a fire, not only are those jobs not benefited by asking about the citizenship status of the St. Paul residents and businesses that are impacted, but actually they could be threatened. Our most sacred job as elected leaders, our most sacred job as municipal leaders, is ensuring that every single resident, that every single business, that every single person who comes into our city knows that they can confidently look for help from city leaders without fear that our city leaders, that our city law enforcement agents, that our city employees will be weaponized against law-abiding, tax-paying, hard-working residents and neighbors who call this community home. Thank you all for being here. And with that, I will pass it to our city attorney, Lindsay Olson, who will share more specifics about the lawsuit, about the legal action that we're joining.
Thank you, Mayor, for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lindsay Olson, and I have the honor to be the city attorney for St. Paul. At the heart of this lawsuit is a challenge to actions that violate the U.S. Constitution. Our elected and appointed positions, we take oaths to defend and uphold the Constitution. It's our duty to defend our community against unconstitutional orders and actions at the federal level that directly affect our residents and our community. The federal government, under the current executive orders and internal directives, is attempting to coerce state and local governments into direct enforcement of federal immigration law. This coercion is called commandeering. The U.S. Supreme Court has specifically held that the 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution prohibits commandeering. The federal government may not compel state and local governments to enact or administer federal regulatory programs. This is a constitutional violation because our Constitution, through the 10th Amendment, reserves powers not given to the federal government specifically to the states and the people. When states are forced to act in ways they didn't agree to, it disrupts the balance of power between national, state, and local governments, undermining the very principles of federalism that keep our government fair and balanced. This lawsuit also challenges executive branch overreach, violating constitutional separation of powers. The powers of the purse, specifically decisions regarding federal spending, are a responsibility that belongs solely to our U.S. Congress. By attempting to dictate how local jurisdictions should allocate their limited resources, the executive branch is essentially legislating from the executive. This disrupts the constitutional balance between our branches of government. Our local challenge is not about opposing lawful immigration enforcement. Rather, it is about ensuring that St. Paul and our fellow local governments across this country retain their rights guaranteed under our U.S. Constitution to manage resources and protect our communities without being forced to act as agents of federal policy. Our case is firmly rooted in the long-standing legal precedents that affirm constitutional principles of anti-commandeering and the separation of powers. We are confident that these principles will prevail in court. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for that background, Mayor Carter and City Attorney Olson. My name is Rebecca Naker. I'm the president of the St. Paul City Council, and I am here today along with my colleagues on the St. Paul City Council to voice our strong support for joining this litigation. Public safety is our city's greatest responsibility, and it's one that we take very seriously. I'm grateful for the exemplary work of our police department, our fire department, our Office of Neighborhood Safety, and all our first responders, not just to enforce the law, but to build relationships. Because as we in St. Paul know, real safety can only be built on trust. The council is committed to ensuring that all residents feel safe and have access to city services regardless of their immigration status. This commitment is reflected in St. Paul's separation ordinance, which our council passed in 2004. It prohibits city officials from asking about immigration status before providing core city services. The ordinance establishes a clear boundary between local governance and federal immigration enforcement, allowing us to meet the safety and basic needs of all our residents with compassion and understanding while building that critical trust. Since city services are essential to our residents' daily lives and collective well-being, any federal action, such as withholding or conditioning federal funds, that undermines this boundary directly threatens the safety, quality of life, and stability of our city and our residents. Therefore, the St. Paul City Council remains steadfast in upholding our separation ordinance to protect our immigrant neighbors, to maintain public safety, and to ensure equitable access to the services that foster an inclusive and thriving St. Paul. Thank you, and I'm now honored to introduce my colleague, Councilmember and Budget Chair, Nelsie Yang.
Thank you, Council President. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nelsie Yang, and I'm a proud Hmong daughter of refugees, woman of color, mom, a young person representing St. Paul Ward 6, which is home to our east side of St. Paul. I will be very frank. I wish that we were here under better circumstances. These past few weeks since Donald Trump's return to the White House has been a whirlwind of deep injustices. I cannot begin to tell you how heartbreaking and painful it is to hear from people both in and out of my ward about what has been at stake for them, as Trump and his cronies advance policies to literally erase people from our society, strip families apart, take away hard-fought human rights that were won by the people, slash public funding for the most basic services in our country, and now threaten to withhold federal funding from sanctuary cities. This is wrong, and we will not take a backseat as the Trump administration brings this country to its ruin. In the words of my biggest civil rights idols, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the ultimate tragedy is not the oppression and cruelty by the bad people, but the silence over that by the good people. Let me be clear, St. Paul will not be silent. And that's exactly why today I am extremely proud to be amongst elected officials, leaders, staff, community members, and friends who stand ready to fight against Trump's threats to withhold over $200 million of federal funding from our sanctuary city and other cities like ours. We are prideful of the diversity in our community, from working class communities, all our immigrant and refugee communities, our LGBTQ plus community, people of color, women, youth, all who make up the beauty of our East Side community and neighborhoods all across our city. We know the loss of federal funding negatively impacts our ability to build more affordable housing, improve our highway and parks, protect our natural resources like water, and ensure safety of the public disproportionately impacts marginalized communities like ours the most. This is unjust, and we see through the underlying institutional racism and classism being perpetuated by the Trump administration. So here are my words to Donald Trump. Unlike you, our integrity and values cannot be bought. We will also be seeing you in court.
I want to be respectful of time. I know our city council members have a pre-noticed city council meeting at 3:30. And so I understand, I know you guys may have to go and conduct the people's business. We appreciate you all being here with us and making this strong statement alongside us. As you heard, we are very committed to what we say every day. And that is, this is a city that has to be a city that works for all of us. I want to thank the members of Isaiah, the faith leaders, the community leaders who have come out to stand with us today as we say this and as we continue to affirm that the hardworking people of this city, the residents and businesses of this city must be able to benefit from the federal property tax, from the federal income taxes and federal business taxes that they pay into every single year. We do not accept those dollars, those resources that our residents rely on being held hostage or being held ransom against a demand to try to usurp local law enforcement as agents of federal policy. And I'm happy to take any questions. You guys can go if you guys need to go. Okay.
Mayor, in the statement from the White House, it said that they'll threaten to sue if you guys interfere with any federal action. Has St. Paul interfered with any federal action from agents of ICE in terms of immigration or deportation?
What we're hearing from the White House is all rhetoric. And the reason we're hearing all rhetoric is because they have taken a pass over and over again on immigration and on public safety. They've taken a hard pass on thoughtful policy reforms, thoughtful, in many cases, bipartisan policy reforms. That's one of the reasons the greatest spike in homicides in America in any of our lifetime happened during the first Trump administration. That's why public safety is so critical and so urgent, because of that consistent focus on prioritizing rhetoric over actual policy. What they're attempting to do is try to demand that those St. Paul police officers who work hard every single day to make sure that we're connecting people to support, that we're investigating crimes that happen in our city, that we're securing major events and those types of things, take a detour from that critical work that we do every single day. Take a detour from that work that has gone through the legal budgeting processes and has already been allocated to the public safety mission as we currently see it, and detour that away to being able to be tapped in to whatever they decide they want to do, whether that's raids or whatever it is in our community. It's just not going to happen. I don't know of any circumstance across the state, across the country, where somebody has, gone into a federal office and said, you federal people can't do the work that you're doing. What we have said very loud and clear, and will continue to say in this press conference and everywhere people need to hear it, is that the city of St. Paul, the employees of the city of St. Paul, and certainly the elected and appointed officials of the city of St. Paul have a lot of work to do, and enforcing federal immigration policy is not one of those tasks.
You likely have residents within your own city that agree with the president. What do you want to say to those residents with your initiative?
It's what I tell those residents every day. If you live in St. Paul, my top promise to you is that if your neighbor smells smoke coming from your house, we're going to make sure that they feel safe calling 911. That's not something that we just do for quote unquote those people or for them, for that neighbor. It's something that we do for ourselves. Our public safety services, our public safety infrastructure is the fabric that we will not allow to be torn by the federal government.
Mayor, are you able to confirm, the Trump administration mentioned those 3 individuals that were deported. Are you able to confirm that that actually happened?
I'm not able to confirm that that actually happened. They put out the release that they put out yesterday. Obviously, the statements that I made might have even been before those things happened. They weren't in response to any specific kind of cases. What they're in response to is a rhetoric that's coming from the federal government that is making hardworking, tax-paying, law-abiding neighbors afraid to go to church, afraid to take their children to school, afraid to call 911 in an emergency because they think that somebody's out there literally trying to hunt them down. And that's what we won't accept in our community, and that's certainly what we won't participate in our community.
Mayor, have you seen anything like this since you've been in office about a lot of threats and fake news that like Donald Trump and his cronies has been displaying?
Yeah, about the first 3 years of my administration, we experienced a lot of this under the first Trump term in office.
How will your initiative differ from San Francisco's?
We are joining the lawsuit that San Francisco has filed. We're not filing a separate or distinct lawsuit. We are joining a group of cities that started with the city of San Francisco, but we're joining a group of cities that are filing this lawsuit together. So not something that's distinct or different from San Francisco's. We're joining this and doing this together.
Right, but would you say you both are collectively in the same exact push, or has Mayor Lori said anything that you disagree with in his initiative?
Oh, I have to say I haven't read every quote that Mayor Lori has given, so I wouldn't be the source to kind of respond to that. What I can tell you is what our mission is in the city of St. Paul. I'd love to learn more about their kind of universal approach. We're very proud of the approach that we've set out in St. Paul. We launched an Office of Immigrant and Refugee Services in our city attorney's office several years ago that leads that work on behalf of the city, and that we've determined that the legal action that's currently being led, like I said, by the city of San Francisco is absolutely in line with our approach to serving our constituents. You guys ready to step out? Okay. Thank you to the council members for being here.
Hey, Mayor, can you clarify the 260 million number? What is that 1 year of federal funding? And has Trump said he's going to get rid of all of it, or is it kind of more general threat there?
You know, we sure would love for this administration to be more specific when they issue threats. The $260 million number, some of that is annual funding, some of that is one-time projects, like, for example, the lead service lines. That's a large one-time grant that we have from the federal government to help do that work. And so we can get you further details on the breakdown between kind of ongoing funding versus the different kind of one-time grants that we're counting on. But we constantly look to support from the federal government to help repair critical infrastructure, to help expand our the roles of our law enforcement through COPS grants, to help, like I said, the lead service lines. Federal funding helped us build the new North End Community Center that we're excited to open very soon. So we're constantly looking to support from the federal government. And every now and then on social media, I read some comments that suggest that these are handouts or something like that. It's important for us all to understand that the federal government is funded by with dollars that we all chip into this time of year when we're paying our income taxes. That's what the federal government is. And so for the federal government to suggest that they would wholesale withdraw all federal funding from a whole collection of communities across this city who probably collectively contribute billions of dollars, if not more than that, in annual tax resources is grossly constitutional and flies directly in the face in everything I learned, I was going to say in high school civics, but that was probably about fourth grade when we learned about taxation without representation.
Mayor Carter, one more question. I'm sorry. Has any family members or anybody that you probably know of a different ethnic group reached out to you and voiced their concerns about being deported or anything like that from the Trump administration? Like
I said, we hear every day. And not just in the office. We hear at the coffee shop. We hear at the barber shop. We hear in the grocery store about people who are concerned. Because the administration has not made clear. They give this rhetoric around, severe violent offenders. They haven't told the grandmothers. They haven't told the children in this community who know nothing but America. They have not told the law-abiding folks who, by the way, pay into taxes in our community, pay into our Social Security infrastructure. They haven't told them that they don't intend to be a threat to hardworking, tax-paying, law-abiding community members. If they don't intend to be a threat to them, they ought to say that out loud. So yes, it cannot be said loudly enough. We have members of our community, and more broadly, families all across this country who work hard, take kids to football practice, clean up trash on their block, and are afraid to go to church. Because this federal government, by the way, has declared that churches aren't off limits. They're afraid to go to school because this federal government has declared that schools aren't off limits. They're afraid to just engage in everyday life. That's not just something that has a terrible impact on one family. But if we have children growing up in our community who are afraid to go to school, our whole community is worse off. If we have families in our community who are afraid to call 911, our whole community is worse off. And so this is where I talk about that interwoven fabric that we cannot allow to be torn. As the city attorney said, nothing that we've said has been oppositional to lawful enforcement of immigration law. What we've said is that city employees will not be deputized, will not be commandeered in service to enforcing federal immigration policy. That's never been our job, and it never will be. Thank you all for coming today.